Hello and welcome. In this video, get ready to discover 10 facts that sound too wild to be true, but totally are. From animals that defy science to wars that ended before you could finish a sandwich. This video will leave you saying, wait, seriously? No fluff, no filler, just one amazing fact after another. Let's jump straight in. Fact number 1. Sharks are older than trees. Yep, you heard that right. Sharks, those sleek, toothy hunters of the sea, have been around for over 400 million years. To put that in perspective, trees didn't appear on Earth until around 350 million years ago. That means sharks were already cruising the oceans 50 million years before the very first tree even took root. And here's the crazy part. These creatures have survived 5 mass extinction events. They swam through prehistoric oceans when trilobites roamed the seafloor. They outlived dinosaurs. They even survived the same asteroid impact that wiped out most of life on Earth. How? One word: adaptation. Sharks have evolved countless times over the millennia. Some species developing better senses, sleeker shapes, and improved hunting strategies. They've gone from being armor-plated predators to the agile hunters we know today. In a way, they're living fossils. Every time you see a shark, you're looking at one of the oldest and most successful survivors on the planet. Fact number 2. Cleopatra lived closer in time to the iPhone than to the pyramids. Most people picture Cleopatra standing proudly next to the pyramids, like they were built during her reign. But that's completely false, and here's why. The Great Pyramid of Giza was completed around 2560 BCE, more than 2,400 years before Cleopatra was even born. Cleopatra ruled Egypt between 51 and 30 BCE. That means she lived closer in time to us, modern-day humans, than to the actual construction of the pyramids. To put another way, there's more time between Cleopatra and the pyramids than there is between Cleopatra and the launch of the first iPhone in 2007. It's one of those facts that completely flips how we think about history. We tend to group all of ancient Egypt into one era, but the Egyptian civilization lasted for thousands of years. Cleopatra's reign came at the very end of that timeline, during the period of Roman influence. So next time you imagine Cleopatra admiring the pyramids, remember, to her, they were already ancient relics from a distant past, just like they are to us. Fact number 3. Sloths can hold their breath longer than dolphins. Now, this one might seem impossible at first. Dolphins are fast, agile marine mammals. They're built for life in the water. Sloths? Not so much. They're slow, tree-hugging mammals that spend most of their lives hanging upside down. And yet, 3-toed sloths can hold their breath for up to 40 minutes, while most dolphins max out at about 10 minutes. How is this possible? The answer lies in how sloths manage their energy. These animals have incredibly slow metabolisms. In fact, they're among the slowest mammals on Earth, both in movement and in how their bodies process oxygen. When a sloth dives into water, yes, they can swim. It can lower its heart rate by over 60%, dramatically reducing its oxygen needs. That allows it to stay submerged for long periods without surfacing. It's not just a weird fact, it's a clever survival strategy. Sloths live in tree canopies and try to avoid predators like eagles and jaguars. Moving slowly and blending in helps. And when they do enter the water, being able to stay underwater for long stretches helps them move around unnoticed. So don't let their sleepy faces fool you. Sloths are full of surprises. Fact number 4. Octopuses have 3 hearts, blue blood, and can taste with their arms. Octopuses are some of the most alien-like animals on Earth. And no, that's not an exaggeration. Let's break it down. First, they have 3 hearts. 2 of them pump blood to the gills, while the third sends oxygen-rich blood to the rest of the body. But here's the kicker. When they swim, the heart that supplies the body actually stops beating. That's why octopuses prefer crawling to swimming. Swimming exhausts them. Second, their blood is blue, not red like ours. That's because instead of iron-based hemoglobin, which turns red when it carries oxygen, octopuses use a copper-based molecule called hemocyanin. Hemocyanin turns blue when it binds to oxygen, and it works better than hemoglobin in cold, low-oxygen environments. like the deep sea, where many octopuses live. And finally, each of their 8 arms is packed with sensors and neurons. In fact, an octopus has more neurons in its arms than it does in its central brain. That means each arm can act independently, exploring and reacting to the environment almost on its own. Even more bizarre, their arms can taste. The suckers have special receptors that detect chemicals in the water, so when an octopus touches something, it's actually tasting it at the same time. It's like having 8 arms that double as tongues and brains, all on one creature. No wonder scientists often say, if we ever meet intelligent life in the universe, it might look more like an octopus than like us. Fact number 5. There's a lake in Africa that literally explodes. No, this isn't a movie plot. It's a real and terrifying phenomenon, and it happened at Lake Nyos in Cameroon back in 1986. Lake Nyos sits above a volcanic pocket deep underground. Over years, carbon dioxide gas slowly seeped into the lake from below, dissolving into the water like carbonated soda. But the gas didn't escape. It stayed trapped beneath the surface under immense pressure. Then one night, something triggered a sudden release. It might have been a landslide, a temperature shift, or even rainfall disturbing the lake's delicate balance. Whatever it was, the effect was catastrophic. In seconds, the lake turned into a deadly bubble bath, releasing over 80 million cubic meters of carbon dioxide in a massive, invisible gas cloud. The CO2 rushed downhill at over 60 kilometers per hour, hugging the ground and silently suffocating over 1,700 people and thousands of animals in nearby villages. What's especially terrifying is that carbon dioxide is heavier than air. So it didn't rise and disperse like smoke. It stayed low, replacing the oxygen people were breathing. Today, scientists constantly monitor Lake Nyos and others like it. Special pipes have been installed to slowly release the gas and prevent it from building up again. It's one of the most chilling natural disasters you've probably never heard of, and proof that even a quiet, beautiful lake can hide a lethal secret. Fact number 6. There's a place on Earth that's closer to space than to land. Meet Point Nemo, the loneliest place on the planet. Located in the middle of the South Pacific Ocean, Point Nemo is over 1,600 miles away from the nearest land in any direction. That's farther than the distance from New York to Denver. Just ocean in every direction. But here's the mind-blowing part. The closest humans to Point Nemo aren't on Earth. They're usually the astronauts aboard the International Space Station, which orbits about 250 miles above us. That means if you were floating at Point Nemo, you'd be closer to people in space than to anyone on land. Because it's so remote and uninhabited, Point Nemo is also used by space agencies like NASA and Roscosmos as a spacecraft graveyard. When satellites, cargo ships, or even entire space stations are retired, they're often programmed to re-enter the atmosphere and crash into this part of the ocean. Dozens of space vehicles, including parts of the Russian Mir space station, have been sent to their watery graves at Point Nemo. So if you ever visit, which is unlikely unless you're an elite sailor, you'd be floating above one of the most isolated places on Earth and above hundreds of dead spacecraft lying on the ocean floor. Fact number 7. The shortest war in history lasted just 38 minutes. When we think of war, we usually think of years of fighting, long sieges, and drawn-out conflicts. But in 1896, the Anglo-Zanzibar War proved that sometimes a war can be shorter than your favorite TV episode. Here's what happened. The Sultan of Zanzibar died, and his successor, Khalid bin Barghash, took over without British approval. The British Empire wasn't happy. They wanted someone else on the throne, someone more cooperative. So they gave Khalid an ultimatum: surrender and leave the palace. He refused. So, at 9:02 a.m. on August 27, 1896, British warships opened fire on the palace. They bombarded it with heavy artillery and destroyed much of it within minutes. By 9:40 a.m., just 38 minutes later, the Sultan surrendered. The war was over. It was a complete mismatch. The British had modern warships, while Zanzibar's forces had only a few rifles and an aging yacht. The palace was in ruins, and hundreds of defenders were wounded or killed. The British suffered only one injured sailor. And just like that, history's shortest war came to an end, faster than it takes to bake a frozen pizza. Fact number 8. Napoleon was once attacked by a horde of rabbits. This one sounds like a joke, but it really happened. After a successful campaign, Napoleon Bonaparte decided to host a grand rabbit hunt for himself and his men. His officers arranged for several hundred rabbits to be gathered on a field for the event. But there was one problem. Instead of wild rabbits, they brought in tame, farm-raised ones, the kind that are used to being fed by humans. So when the cages were opened, instead of running away in fear, the rabbits did the opposite. They charged at Napoleon and his troops, expecting food. At first, it was funny. A few bunnies hopping around. Then more came. Dozens. Then hundreds. Napoleon and his generals tried to shoo them off, but the rabbits kept coming. Some accounts say they climbed into carriages, swarmed boots, and even started nibbling at uniforms. Eventually, the officers had to flee the field, chased off by a fluffy army of hungry, confused rabbits. It became one of the strangest and most hilarious footnotes in military history. The great general, who had conquered nations, couldn't defeat a few hundred bunnies. Fact number 9. There's a hidden ocean beneath the Earth's crust. We all know about the Atlantic, Pacific, Indian, Arctic, and Southern Oceans. But did you know there's a massive reservoir of water hidden deep below the Earth's surface? One that's 3 times bigger than all of our oceans combined? Here's the story. Scientists studying the Earth's mantle discovered something remarkable about 400 miles below the surface. Inside a rare mineral called ringwoodite, they found water, not as liquid, but trapped within the crystal structure of the rock itself. This form of water is chemically bonded to the minerals. It's not flowing like rivers or pooling in lakes, but when you add up all of it, the total volume is staggering. This discovery completely changed how scientists understand Earth's water cycle. Until recently, we believed most of the planet's water was at or near the surface: oceans, rivers, lakes, glaciers. But this hidden ocean suggests that water has existed deep within Earth's interior for billions of years. It also supports a new theory, that some of the water on the surface may have come from inside the Earth, not from icy comets or asteroids as once believed. Why does this matter? Well, it shows that Earth's geology and biology are even more connected than we thought. The processes happening hundreds of miles underground could be influencing earthquakes, volcanoes, and maybe even life itself on the surface. It's a reminder that the more we explore, the more we realize we've only scratched the surface of what's beneath our feet. Fact number 10. 10-year-olds used to work as chimney sweeps, and it was deadly. Let's go back to 18th and 19th century Britain during the heart of the Industrial Revolution. While factories and cities were booming, child labor was rampant, and some of the youngest and most vulnerable workers were chimney sweeps. These were boys as young as 5, often orphans or sold by poor families. They were forced to climb inside narrow, soot-filled chimneys, some just 9 inches wide, to scrape off the built-up coal residue. They'd be sent up from the bottom, crawling and shimmying through the cramped, filthy flues, using nothing but basic tools and their bare hands. It was brutally dangerous work. They risked falls from great heights, suffocation from soot and smoke, and burns from active fireplaces. Many died inside the chimneys themselves. Others developed horrifying long-term health issues, including chimney sweeps cancer, a rare form of scrotal cancer caused by constant exposure to soot. It was one of the first documented forms of occupational cancer. The abuse was so widespread and so shocking that it helped ignite the movement for child labor reform. After years of campaigning, the Chimney Sweepers Act of 1875 was passed in Britain, banning children under 16 from working in this job and requiring proper training for adult sweeps. This law became a landmark moment in the global fight to protect children from exploitation. It's a hard truth to face, but it's important to remember. History isn't just about kings, queens, and wars. It's also about the lives of ordinary people, especially those who were voiceless. These children helped spark change, even if most of them never lived to see it. And that's it for now, but If you enjoyed this video and learned something new today, now's the perfect time to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. We've got more incredible stories coming your way. And trust me, the next ones are just as wild. Drop a comment below and tell us which fact surprised you the most.